before we start, I have to give a forward-looking statement. I don't know how many times you've seen this today, probably hundreds of times. But just be sure to base all of your purchasing decisions with what is available in the product today. All right, so let's start with, for those of you that don't know, so our Salesforce Commerce API, these are new APIs that we introduced about 18 months ago. We've had a lot of adoption on the new APIs. There are a number of different things you can do with them. There are two main categories of APIs. So there are shopper APIs, which have endpoints to do things such as shopper authentication, product lookup, checkout, basket, search, those type of things to build a storefront with. And then there are a set of administration APIs, which are used to do data maintenance and things on the back end. All of these APIs are built on top of the B2C Commerce Cloud stack. So it comes with the full trust and performance that is there from that entire stack, including the security, the high availability, compliance, scale, and all those things that come with it. But when we introduced the APIs about 18 months ago, one thing that wasn't there was a customization layer. So the APIs were available, you could call them, you could get their responses, but you couldn't really get anything different from those responses back. So that was something that was big thing that was asked for developers, was needed to do a number of things to start to build storefronts. And so I'm happy to announce that as of our last release, we now have what we call hook extensions available for these APIs. So now you can leverage the B2C Commerce Script API and operate with those scripts and have them take effect on the API calls that are being made to the central server. There are a number of things, brings a whole bunch of flexibility to it. The script API has been around for a while with B2C Commerce, so it's the common place where customization is done. You can do simple things from just changing objects, adding and removing properties on the objects, to more complicated things like reaching out to third-party systems and making other HTTP requests, changing data transformations, changing the contents of the transaction, a lot of other things that you can do with the script API, and now you have the ability to do that with these APIs as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a little bit of time, we're going to look kind of at the high level of how the script hooks work, what you can do with the APIs. We'll take a really simple use case and Dirk will walk us through it. And then hopefully you can go and look through the APIs yourselves and try things out, instantiate the hooks, work with them. There are a lot of things you can do. We encourage everybody to get out there and try it. So what are some common use case examples that you would have for needing these hooks? So one great area that always comes up with customization is with validation. So standard things such as address validation, fraud checks for payments are usually done with customization. But a lot of times there are also things such as like basket validation that you may need to do. Maybe the types of things that you're selling, it's okay if you have one thing in the basket, but if you have another type of product that's a competing thing, maybe they shouldn't both be in the basket at the same time. So that type of validation you can do with these customizations. Another area for customization is with either reducing or adding to the data set that's coming back. So you can add in fields to the object, or maybe you remove fields from the object before they're sent back. And then the last real big piece of customization is with linking out to third parties and all of our great ISV partners that are out there. Payment, tax, shipping, all of these things are usually done through customization and through these third-party partners. We have over 300 linked partners that are out available for B2C Commerce. Many of them are leveraging different types of customization and hooks, and now many of them can use their can start to connect their third-party systems into these API hooks and make them available for headless implementations. So how do the hooks actually work? So there's kind of a request processing thing. Let's talk through a little bit about how it works. So first, there are three types of hooks. The first is a before hook. So the before hook will fire just before the B2C service logic. So whatever the request is asking for, before B2C itself starts doing its work, the before hook will fire and allow you to make modifications to the object. Then in the case of requests that actually make changes to data, once that service logic finishes, there is an after hook that will fire that you can then add additional things into the object before it's actually committed into the database. So that's just for requests that make changes to data. And then the third type of hook is a modify response hook, which does exactly what it says. It allows you to full access to the API response that is about to be sent back down to the requester, and you can make changes within that response, adding and removing fields in there. So some common use cases are things that you're doing in each of these three areas. So in before hooks, you're usually adding, defining additional filters, or maybe setting variables to control the service logic that is about to happen from B2C commerce. In after hooks, you are probably sending notifications. You may be adding additional fields that need to be committed with the transaction. And definitely with payment processing and shipping are all part of after hooks. And then the modify response is really all about just adding more data or taking data out from the response that is sent back to trim down the response to exactly what you want to be receiving on the other side. So what API endpoints have we made hooks available for? So all of these shopper APIs have these hooks now available for them. So basket and order, product, catalog, customer, pricing and promotion, and search are all now available to use with the APIs. And then in Scapy itself, or this Commerce API, there are two endpoints that only exist there, not in other APIs, basket merge and basket transfer. And then as we continue to add more endpoints to the Commerce API, we'll have more detail, or more hooks that are made available there. All right, so now I'm going to turn the time over to Dirk. Dirk's going to kind of walk us through how these work and give us an example.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, let's switch gears a little bit and let's have a look on how are we going to actually enable them, how to deal with them, how to bring the code actually into the system, right? So there are a couple of steps that you need to take in order to make use of the hooks for Scapy. At the moment, we are relying on a base API system, the Okapi system for this, and in order to avoid actually unwanted impact on its existing installations, we actually put the whole functionality behind the feature switch. So you need to enable the feature switch, and then the hooks are enabled for the Salesforce Commerce APIs as well. What you need to keep in mind is that your business manager user, so the user that logs into the business manager to do the switch, needs to have business manager administrator rights. So full administrator rights for the business manager to just edit all of the feature switches and enable the hooks in that special case. The second thing, as you probably know, within B2C Commerce we deal with code versions, code packages, and those code packages consist of cartridges. In the cartridge, you have actually contains all of the business extensions and business integrations that can be controllers, templates, data, and scripts, of course. So what we have done is actually for the demo, we just put our script for the hook into a cartridge. And since a cartridge follows a certain structure, you need to basically register the hook within the cartridge structure. So first of all, you need to define the package JSON in the cartridge to tell the package where can I find the hook definitions. And in the hook.json, which contains the definitions, you basically say, okay, which endpoint triggers eventually the related script that has been developed for this. I will show that in a second on the screen. So for the demo, as Andrew told you already, we have three hook types. We have before hooks, after hooks, modify response hooks. All of those hooks can be filled with code from our script API on B2C Commerce. So you can do basically everything that you can do today with script API in B2C Commerce. You can put that also in hook code. Very powerful. And actually what we want to show you is to use an after hook. Once we create an order, we want the order to get a new field actually populated with a backend order number. So we are mocking basically to reach out to a backend, receive an order number, and write the order number into a custom field in the B2C Commerce system. So this is a response from an existing order before the hook has been applied. So we just see that there's a custom field available this custom field has been set up in the business manager for the order object, and this is empty at the moment because it is not filled at all. So here, in that case, the script comes into play. As you see here above, there is the, let's say, the package or the code version, which is called TDX in my case. And within this package, there's a cartridge called TDX sample. And in the TDX sample, we have the package JSON that I talked about that basically refers to the hook. I need to make it, no, it's to the hook, which contains itself. You just go down the definition on which endpoint will be calling what script. So that is the endpoint. It is on the order object, the after hook. And once the after hook has been triggered, it will actually look for an order hooks JavaScript file to execute the logic. So, and the hooks itself, the hook file is here in the order hooks. Just let me do it a little bit smaller. And very simple, as I said, we mock basically the reach out to a backend system where we want to get a backend order number. And we assign in the after post hook into a custom field backend order number, the backend number from the third-party system with a little prefix to it, and then we return the return code. Very straightforward. So what you need to do now is basically everything that you have developed, you need to upload to the Commerce Cloud system, and you need to make sure that your cartridge is basically activated. So this is the best business manager from B2C commerce. There's an administration part called code deployment. And in that area, you basically see all of the packages that are deployed on that system. And there is just one version basically activated, which is a TDX version at the moment. So now the whole code piece has been uploaded, has been activated. Let's have a look actually at what the API call looks like after we have introduced the hook. So here's a little Postman script with just a couple of calls, everything that you need to do in order to create a basic order. First of all, we need to receive a token from our shopper login service. So that basically generates a JOT token that we are using for every subsequent call to authenticate the client and the request basically towards our system. So let me just trigger that one. And what we see here is a token. As you know, Postman keeps that in the storage and it's been used actually for the subsequent calls. In the create basket, we have a normal create basket API call up here. And in the body, we basically say what the basket should contain of already. So we have billing addresses, we have shipment information, we have payment instrument information, and we have also product items in there. In that call, we basically define the structure of the basket similar to what somebody in the storefront would do to basically compose the basket that is finally put into an order. So we just trigger that basket request, have a basket ID at that point, and we hand over that basket ID to a very simple call to create the order at this point, where we just put the basket ID as a variable in that call and create the related order. So that is now the order, real-time created based on the basket that we have created before. And here at the end of the JSON response, you basically see that the backend number has been filled with a number that we have added to the custom field. So far, how the mechanic is of the hook implementation. It can be very powerful in what you put actually into the hooks, and the market is actually full of very good examples how customers and partners use it today already. So that is a way that we can also now apply to our Salesforce Commerce API structure. So let's go back to the slides. The important thing to understand from my perspective is actually we have enabled a concept that is already available for an existing API system. That means Okapi, which is our Open Commerce API, and Scapi, our Salesforce Commerce API at B2C Commerce, share the same hook concept. That basically means once it is enabled for Scapi, the hooks are enabled for Scapi, the hook is being used by Okapi and by Scapi. That's why we have actually introduced the feature toggle that I talked about earlier, right? That you can make sure that you review your code and say, okay, I can take appropriate action to make sure that I distinguish the requests from the different API systems. The modify response hook, that is actually something that you can use in order to completely change your response. Potentially you can even remove all the fields, or you can put any fields in that you want. But since our Scapi, our Salesforce Commerce API, is actually contract-based, it is not allowed anymore for the Salesforce Commerce API to just remove everything in the response. It still needs to be in the scope of the contract. That means adding fields only via custom properties, removing fields always in the scope of what the API contract actually allows. Check out Text API. That is an API that is available for Scapi today, but this checkout Text API is not applicable anymore if the hooks are enabled, because the calculation takes place in the hooks then. That means every text calculation also needs to take place in the hooks, so that needs to be transferred. And timeouts, we now need to basically consider the timeout of the Scapi window, which is 10 seconds. That means the response, including the runtime of the hook, need to be available within the 10 seconds. So now that you have seen a sneak peek, an overview about what is possible and what we have here, you're probably eager to learn more with our documentation. So there is this Commerce Developer Center where we ask you to have a look at, providing additional great information for all related to Commerce API. Our Info Center to talk about script API and how to extend that basically. And then of course we always invite everybody, please join our community, our unofficial community Slack channel, because that is a very busy and very engaged community, and we are welcoming everybody in there. And finally, if you haven't done so, please take your mobile phone, go into your Salesforce Events app, and please write